NERDSoul.
All right, everybody, welcome to another special edition of the Dig Deeper podcast. My name is Ross McInnis. I am joined by my good friend, Lady Lisa. As always, Lisa, it is such a pleasure to be with you. I am really excited about today's topic.
Yes.
Is the church blocking your blessing?
Getting in the way of my blessing.
Getting in the way. Is the church responsible, in other words, to reposition the question, responsible for a misunderstanding of success?
Wow. Yeah.
And Lisa, I grew up in church, so this kind of topic is right up my alley.
Yeah.
I will tell you.
I did too. So yeah, I know it's touchy. It's touchy, but to be for real, I think some things we're going to touch on is it's not going to be anything some people haven't at least thought about, and some have talked about, in small, quiet groups,
Yeah.
Yeah, especially younger folk. To be honest, I don't think older folks would want to breathe it. They would feel like, oh, I can't say that. It's not right. But it's like, no. It's to be talked about, because we're talking about church, meaning the people. We're not talking about God. We're talking about the people that make up the church, which is where the problems come in, because it's people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right, though. Older people are probably not likely to speak about a subject like this because there's a certain reverence for the actual church, more or less what I think most of us will call today a certain level of religiosity that older people have for Christianity, that they have this certain level of respect and reverence, and that not only just about Christianity, Lisa, but in general life, period. There's just some things that older people have a motto. They just do not talk about. They don't question. They do not think about. It is what it is, and we are it with it. You know what I mean? So, it is definitely something that is not talked about at all. But more specifically, I think what's important for us to recognize the church does jack up your mentality about, I can say from my experience, it can jack up your mentality about being single. It can jack up your mentality about sexuality. And it can really completely and totally stand in the whole way of you being who you really are. That it can teach you not to kind of, celebrate those factors of your actual personality.
Yeah, they teach you how to put on a facade. They teach you how to put on this coat, if you will, that fits in, fits in line, and you have to be, holier than thou. The whole, how are you today? And I'm blessed and I'm highly favored. No, how are you today?
Right.
No, how are you really?
Yeah, misconceptions. Misconceptions like, I don't need to go to a therapist because I know God is a healer, and I know God will bring me through it.
And no one wants to say he is a healer, but he may decide that he's not going to heal you. Nobody wants to talk about that, but that happens. That's why, and this may sound harsh, but that's why people get sick and they end up not, making it, because it's not that God can't. It's that in his wisdom and in his will, he decided that you were not going to be healed. No one wants to talk about that. All we say is, like you said, I know that God is a healer and he will heal me. He's a healer, but you do not know that he will heal you. You know he can.
But Lisa, the other part to that is that you do not get to dictate what the healing is. If there's going to be healing, God can provide a resource and a way for you to be healed through counseling, through therapy, through medication. You know what I mean? It is not always like people confuse, I think, in my opinion, in the church, people confuse the concepts of miracle with serendipity or spontaneous combustion of magical faith. Like people, just suddenly God's supposed to just boom, and it's just suddenly, you know what I mean? But I think when God manifests miracles in our lives, I believe it begins in your mind. I believe the breakthrough that you experience, the healing, the restoration, it begins in your thinking. It begins in your mind. For example, I don't believe that you believe you will be healed from sickness and you still going to Dunkin' Donuts every Tuesday and Thursday. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe you really believe that. I don't think that you really are trusting God for a financial breakthrough, but you stayed home from work to read your Bible, or things like that. I don't believe you can, because it's not in your brain yet. It's not in your mind to say, hey, you know what? If I really want better, then I have to think, okay, I need to be healthy. Therefore, I need to stop going to fast food. I need to stop eating crazy. I need to stop spending crazy, because I do need God to work things out. I'm committed to doing what I can do to make this a reality in my life, and God will then supplement that. God will then uphold you on that.
I agree with you, but I think the problem comes in back to church is that, in my opinion, church emphasizes what I call the then in the word. There's ifs and thens. The Lord says, if you, then I.
Mm-hmm.
The church emphasizes the then I, instead of emphasizing if you.
Right.
So we skip over the if you part that God says, because God is saying there's work that you have to do, that you have to put in. You have to have, like you said, a changing of your mind. You have to change your habits. You have to change what it is that you do. Then I. But we focus on what Lord, where you at? He's like, where you at?
Correct. And that is a misconception that is so widely adapted in the church. I hear people say, when the praises go up, the blessings come down. And that is just a misnomer. That is a whole, falsehood. That God does not operate in that fashion. God operates in sovereignty. It isn't if the praises go up, then the blessings come down. It's God is sovereign. So he will reign on the just as well as the unjust.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's not, there's too many, I think though, Lisa, I'll tell you what my opinion is truly.
Mm-hmm.
When I listen to white preachers,
mm-hmm.
I do not hear them saying in 10 days, God's going to send the miracle. In 10 days, God's going to send the check. In 10 days, in the next 24 hours, that you can expect a miracle to turn around. God's going to.
Outside of the TV and evangelical.
Well, yes, that's what I mean. What's the dude name with the black hair that he's supposed to be 900 years old, but I know he colors that hair so black. It's so jet black. You can hear the jets flying over his head when he step out of the car.
I'm just looking forward to run down his face one day.
I mean, one day it's going to. He's going to be in the rain. Wrong day. One day. I'm going to tell you what. Because that hair is so black, boy.
Oh.
I can't think of his name. But, yes.
I know.
Those people, they do. It's really a shame, because so many people are being swindled into believing in a falsehood about how God does his work in us. And, there's so many preachers who are convincing people that if they give $100, I came from an example, I came from a church where we used to run revivals that would be 7 days, 5 days, 3 days, 7 days. And they would have prayer lines. At the end of the service, the revivalists will call up people and say, hey, if you gonna give $50, stand in this line. If you're gonna give $100, you stand in that line. And the $100 line, they was laying hands. And people was, oh, out of the spirit, hey, Jesus, and And the $50 line was, God bless you, thank you for your giving. You know what I mean? And so, so it's just.
It's like, that was my last $50. So that's all.
Right. Exactly. And the thing is, see, that there's way too much this whole conversation so far is all over the place already. Yeah. But
it's so much. It's just so, we need to make an outline and like break it down in parts. It's so much. That's why like when it came on me, I was like, we got to talk about this.
Yes, we do because people are being hurt. People are hurt right now as a result of the church spreading huge misunderstanding about blessing and miracles.
I think it's turning people away from the church.
It definitely is.
Mm-hmm. This whole prosperity preaching, that has become such a thing. I mean, prosperity preaching has always been around, but with the internet and with television, it's become, to the 10th power, prosperity preaching and prosperity churches. And it's just, I hate to say it, but it's sucking people dry, and it's, giving people a wrong definition of what prosperity is. And then whose prosperity are you talking about? Are you talking about mine? Are you talking about the pastors? Are you talking about the churches? Are you talking about the people as a whole? Whose prosperity are we focusing on? And for what? That's the other thing. For what?
I think they're playing the prosperity gospel, I think, is purpose to show people that they can earn money and earn more than what is sufficient for their lifestyle, to generate a new lifestyle. And the flagship of that prosperity message is a man who's, of course, because I want to say his name, I'm going to forget it, but I know it. Leroy Thompson. He's this guy that, Lisa, okay, I'm going to dig into my own personal stories here. So I first found out about Leroy Thompson from my home church. This man preaches a message called money cometh. And so he, his motto, his method is, you manifest money into your life by saying, money cometh to me. Money cometh to me. And so, you got people that are, while he's preaching, there's videos that show it. There's videos that show this. While he's preaching in the congregation, while he's walking around, some preachers walk and stuff like that. Congregation is handing him money as he's preaching. He's walking up and down the aisles, and they believe that handing him money during the preached word is the same as sowing a seed, so that they might have some kind of a financial supernatural reward, or not even just a reward, but a return, a supernatural financial return, because they gave money to him. And then you have people that are giving thousands of dollars to him, thousands of their last dollars, you know what I'm saying, to him, and not taking care of home and not taking care of business, and lights being shut off. I mean, Lisa, that kind of thing is, but Leroy Thompson, he's, he has his own private jet. He's got, all these cars and all this stuff, because people are giving him money left and right. And he was even saying the money just won't stop coming in. But when money doesn't stop coming in when it starts flowing. Ask Bill Gates, ask Jeff Bezos, you know what I'm saying?
It's a plan. You planned it this way. You sat and you plotted and you planned for this to happen. So don't act like all of a sudden you don't understand. You planned this.
But TD Jakes said something remarkable to me. That was remarkable to me, for me to hear it. I wish he had said it directly to me. I'd be like, thank you, Jesus. But, he said, the church has a problem with prayer life, that is too much prayer about finances. He said, every time the Black church is asking for God to do a miracle, it's financial. He was like, you don't need God if you want a house. You don't need God if you want a car. He said you need a job. You need some income. You need to come to work and you need to do what your job is telling you to do, and you need to earn your money and you need to finance your stuff. He said, because look at all the people that don't believe in God, that don't believe in Christ and do not serve him or worship him, that have way better credit, way better living. Everything about their life is more productive and more stable and just 10,000 times better than you.
Yeah.
You think God is going to say, nah, they don't serve me, so I'm going to let all their stuff crumble?
Wow.
You know, so it's like a misconception that's birthed out of it. I think really, though, it's easy because it's easy, in my opinion only, and this is just my opinion, because I'm sure people will disagree with me and I'm okay with that. But it is my opinion. It becomes easy for preachers to hoodwink Black churches because all you have to do is tell them they're going to be blessed financially and they're going to be healed physically. Because in the Black community, in the Black culture, there's so much ailment. There's so much financial ailment and physical ailment. You know what I'm saying? I remember when I was a kid, and this man came in the church and he was running a revival and he was so-called preaching, and he just stopped and said, "Oh, it's a pain. It's a pain in my back." Who is that? Who got a pain in their back? Nigga, everybody in this damn church got a pain in their back. Everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's easy to say, I'm going to pray that the Lord bless you. I remember this other revivalist would come. He looked at this one lady and said, I'm going to go down in the spirit and create you a $60,000 blessing. And I say, now, come on, now, this is getting out of hand, sir. Like, you know, this here thing, you said you're going to go down into the spirit. And no, she wasn't one of them people that she going to just fall all over the floor and, you know, and start hollering and everything. She was like, oh, okay. I better see $60,000 somewhere because you said it was going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, but don't talk yourself into thinking you can prophesy to me. That's not no prophecy. That's just some wizardry. That's not no prophecy.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a whole lot of wizardry, and that's why people are expecting magic.
That's why they're expecting, and that's precisely what T.D. Jakes said about it. He said, faith is not magical. There's nothing magical about faith.
Yeah. I just thought of, some people are gonna laugh at me. I don't care. It made me think of an episode of Little House on the Prairie. Yes, I watched Little House on the Prairie. It was an episode where Michael Landon's character and his family had, there was a preacher that was kind of traveling throughout their area, right? And he was one of those preachers that claimed he could heal everybody, and I can heal you. You just have to, give me a gift and sow your seed. So this preacher is making his way. And so he comes into town, and I think there was someone that, was really, really sick or whatever it was. And so they were looking, for him to possibly heal this person. So of course, the prosperity minister or the healing preacher will bring people with him. They don't know this, but of course, they bring people with them and, oh, they're healed. And so, Michael Landon's character is kind of, mesmerized at first, but then he realizes when he goes to another service, it's the same people.
That's right.
That were healed at the previous service.
Yes.
And he's coming to terms with this, and he's upset. But what ends up happening is he gets some other men from the community to come and run them out of town.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's what we need.
Yeah.
That's what we need as a church is to come to the reality that this is what's happening, accept it. And it needs to be run out of the church. That way of thinking, that way of teaching, it needs to be gone, because a lot of churches have just gotten out of control. And I hate to say it, but there are some pastors and ministers with their own agenda that have taken over churches. As churches
Taking them over.
taking them
And you
completely
want to know what the
over.
agenda is? A man named Benjamin Franklin. That's the agenda. A man named Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's it's something. And you know, it's hindering a lot of people because
Mhm.
unfortunately, uh, unfortunately people are worshiping their pastors
That's very true. I
and
agree wholeheartedly
not
with
their
that.
God, and they don't go home. They sit there and take notes for days, right? But they
Yep.
don't go home and read the word for themselves. They just take it face value. Not to say you're supposed to like check after your pastor. That's not what I'm saying. But you have to read the word for yourself. So when you're taking those notes and you're listening to what he says, you have to go home and get your own understanding and pray for your own understanding, and not just take what he said and just roll with that.
But when you have, okay, so I get your point. The thing that people are doing though is they are going and reading the word and applying their own understanding to it. And I think that right there is, there's so many different ways, Lisa, to actually articulate how a person interprets the scriptures.
Mhm.
There's different methods that if you speak to a theologian can explain to you and articulate it very well the different ways people actually really interpret the Bible.
Mhm.
Where we run into problems with interpretation is that there are so many different ways. One of the ways that I know of specifically is that you literally read what it says and that literally is what it is, period. Like, but what we don't understand is this Bible, the books that we read in the Bible, the scriptures are not English. These are scriptures that were written, in another language that
Culture.
is way older than English, number one. But then depending on what you're reading, there's so much. There's so much that can be applied to that statement. It depends on what you're reading. Are you reading what is supposed to be poetry? Are you reading what is supposed to be an account? If it's an account, then whose account is it? If it's that person, because it might not be, but if that person is the author, then what kind of a characters does that individual have? What kind of a person do we know him to be? And through the scope of that individual writer, how can we then interpret these scriptures? What is the context? Where does the context come from? Are we in the story or behind the story or in front of the story? There's too much. There's too much. There's too much. There's too much. So you can't just go home and say, these are the words and therefore this is God's word. That's where we are. That's where the church is. That's where the church is. That's the biggest misconception of all, that the Bible is, quote, God's word. No, no, the Bible was written by humans. So, so it's just too much to consider for you to just go home and just like, after you listen to a basic sermon, and I know I'm going off on a huge tangent here, but I honestly feel a lot of feelings about this matter, about the subject. Like, I've gone to so many, not so many, but I've gone to some churches where the preacher is, I can't listen to you. I can't listen to you because you're not digging in enough for me. You're not, the message is so surface. There's not enough interpretation of the context of what you're reading, and you probably are interpreting that moment in the scripture altogether. So I'm like turned all the way off. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm turned off. I went to this other church down the street the other day. I thought, Lisa, I had found me a little church right down the street from my house. I was like, yeah, this is a nice little community church. Okay, community family. And then, Lisa,
Uh-oh.
then there was a guest minister preaching. The pastor was sitting off to the right, and I saw him reaching his wallet and take some money up to the altar and lay it down while he was preaching. And I just said, well, I'm out. And I left.
Yeah.
Because that's going backwards. I don't want that no more. First
time I saw that in the church, I didn't know what was happening. I had no idea what was happening. I was just kind of like, what y'all doing? Well, I thought we already had.
I mean, is this a strip club? But we can't go
I didn't want to say it. Right? I didn't want to say it, but I was just like,
are y'all supposed to be saved?
Are y'all about to turn the lights down? What's about to happen? Like, yeah. It's a bit much. It's yeah. But I see what you're saying. And to go back to reading for yourself, I agree. It takes more than you go home and read it for yourself. It takes Bible study, it takes learning, it takes it really takes a whole lot, which you should be doing throughout your life and on a regular basis. That's why I do, and I had to learn this as I grow up. Of course, when you're younger, you're just like, why am I in church all the time? What weren't we just here Sunday? But you learn that it's continuous. It's just like when you go to school. You can't just go to school Tuesday and Thursday and think, oh, I got it. It all ties together. It's continuous and learning more, and it's building on top of one thing on top of the other, and it all intertwines. It all comes together. So I agree with you. It was a book that I bought some years ago, and it said how to read the Bible, and it just, oh my gosh, it's very intricate, and I had to kind of step away because it's very intricate.
That's all. It's because it's a lot, but you don't grow up knowing that.
No,
you grow up saying the Lord is my shepherd. But why? Why did the writer say that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Here's a misconception. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills from whence cometh my help. Black folks will put that together. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills from whence cometh my help. It's not a run-on sentence. It's one sentence followed by a question. And it's literally in the Bible, just like that. A period follows the first sentence. A question mark follows the next sentence. There.
But that's where it goes back to, you have to read. See, they're repeating what they heard. They didn't read it for themselves.
It's regurgitation. Did you see the one video where the girl was? Never mind. I won't say that. She had a real country accent, and she was. I have to find it so you can see what I'm talking about.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
You put an R on the end of it.
Bless the heart.
Oh my God. But it was like, an example of how we do not read with understanding.
Yeah. Or try to get understanding. We don't ask questions or try to get understanding.
We don't try to get it. We just feel like what I'm seeing is my understanding. Period. It's just, and if you challenge why I understand things the way I do, they can only go as deep as, well, this is what God showed me about it. And that's just unacceptable as an answer. That's unacceptable.
I remember one time at St. Paul's, I went to Bible study, and actually that time, this was when Pastor Watson was actually leading Bible study. So, that was some time ago.
Yep.
And I remember that at some point, I don't remember if it was at the end or like at certain points, he would allow you to come to the microphone and ask questions.
Yep.
And so I remember coming to the mic and asking a question, and his answer still didn't make it clear to me. And I guess he could see the look on my face. He was like, you can ask another question. So I had a follow-up question. And I was like, this is important. This part is extremely important. Sure. Because if he sits there and he teaches and then says, okay, let's bow our heads and let's leave, you're going to have a lot of people sitting there going, oh, well, I went to Bible study and that's it. There was no help to help me clarify or answer questions. So I just thought about that just now, and I thought that was really important. And like you said, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say Lance Watson spoiled me.
Yeah.
He spoiled me. I don't know what to do, Lisa. I don't live in Richmond no more.
I know.
I don't live there no more.
I know.
And so I'm like, what am I going to do? I tried other churches, and I'm just like, I just need you to transform into Lance Watson. Just one time.
Telling you, because it's so funny, because I'll have different conversations with people about mega churches and large churches, and I'd be like, not my church. I mean, they'd be like, I know what you're talking about, and I said, I don't mean to keep talking about it, but not my church.
Right.
This foolishness, not in my church, so
I love me some Lance, and I miss him so bad. I just absolutely miss him.
I miss St. Paul's Baptist Church. I miss the experience. Not to say that everything was perfect. It's a church full of people.
Right. On the grow.
On the grow. And some people needed to go. But just saying. But overall, I really did love the church, because he set it up in a way where you can't say I can't get in touch with people, I can't get involved because the church is so big. No ma'am, no sir. It was set up in a way where there are a gazillion groups to choose from. There's information everywhere about those groups where you can participate in some shape, form, or fashion. Period. And that was the key. You can participate, you can grow, you can learn as a small group or as a larger group. It's whatever you are willing to do. The opportunity is there. So yeah.
Well, I mean, the reason that I say that is because the truth is my eyes got really opened when I moved to Richmond. And well, first, I'll say this, when I was visiting Richmond, I saw Pastor Watson preaching on channel WRIC or whatever it is.
I think it was channel 6.
It's like CBS. It was CBS, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw him preaching, and I saw him wearing some tennis shoes and some sneakers and a t-shirt, and his voice was just like so weird to me at first, because I ain't never heard nobody talk like that. You know what I'm saying? I never heard preachers talk like him. And he was just preaching, and God will deliver you out of the hand of the enemy. Boom, right over your head. And I was listening to him, and I was like, who is this guy?
Who is this guy?
Who is he? I never heard nobody preach like that. And I was determined to get there. And the people I was staying with was like, no, we're not taking you there. We're not going to fight that traffic to get into the loop, because in them days, boy, you had to fight to get in that loop. I'm going to tell you right now.
I remember when I first went there, I applied for church.
Yeah, I was like, okay, but I was so determined that when I actually finally did move to Richmond, man, the first Sunday I was here in Richmond, I went to St. Paul's, and I probably was being a little weird, but I walked up to where he goes out into the office, and I stopped there and just watched him like, oh my God, who are you? You know what I'm saying?
As security was watching you.
They sure were, I'm sure of it. And he looked at me and waved, and I was like, it was probably very strange for him, but I was just like, oh my God, I'm so impressed by who you are. I never heard this kind of preaching before. Yeah. And it really opened my eyes and spread my wings.
Yeah.
It really did.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, not to harp on about it, but yeah, because, the thing I liked is that Pastor Watson gave you practical information. He doesn't have you thinking and trying to live up in the heavens.
Right.
In this,
with these strange theories.
No, he's going to give you practice. He's going to say, this is what you're going to have to do. You're not going to like it X, Y, and Z, but if you want to get here, this is what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to do this with your life. You're going to have to change this in your life. Da, 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 da. I like that because it's like accountability. It's not about what happens to you. It's about what you can control, what you need to control, what you need to change, because it makes it feel a little helpless and at the mercy of the heavens when you talk about the thens more than you talk about the if yous. And he talks about the if yous.
Yeah.
If you do X, Y, and Z, then and it's like that's practical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I was watching I was looking at Instagram the other day, and there was a preacher. His first name is Keon. Dang, blast! I can't think of his last name. I think he goes by Pastor Keon on Instagram, and he was reposted by Fred Hammond a clip of a service that I guess what they were having is they were on Facebook Live, and you could submit your questions live while he was, kind of guess doing some Q&A sort of thing about, I guess, just life in general or however. So someone submits the question, what do you do if you are rejected by a spouse? And I'll send this video to you. But it says, what do you do if you're rejected by a spouse?
Wow.
You know what would be interesting? I'll send it to you. Let's watch it right now. Hold on a second. Wait a minute. I can do it. Hold on. I'm going to send it to you right now. Photos. Where is it? What is this? Here it is.
You send it to me.
I'm going to send it to you on Facebook.
Send it to me in the chat on here.
Oh, I can do that? Okay, hold on. Let me see. How do I do that with?
Just copy and paste the link into chat. When you go to the bottom of the screen, it says,
I got it saved in my photos. Let me see. How do I save to files? Maybe. Okay, I'll probably do that.
That's okay. If it's too much, just go ahead. Facebook is fine. I'll click into that. Let's see.
All right. Messenger. I just sent it to you.
Okay.
I think it went to you.
Nothing yet.
It says sending.
Okay.
Well, hurry up. It just says sending. Hold on.
Okay. It might be just a large file.
It's only a minute and 18 seconds.
Mm.
All right. Well, let me try one other thing. If that's not going to work, because I got one other way I can do this.
Oh,
Did it get to you?
Yeah, I heard the notification. Hold on, let me get to it.
Okay.
There we go. All right.
Zoom.
Wait a minute. It's saying I got it. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. You want me to go ahead and play it?
Uh-huh.
All right. There we go. Where is the sound? There we go.
If rejected by a spouse.
See, I hear that question a lot.
If rejected by a spouse.
I'm trying to get to the
It
beginning.
says, what do you do if rejected by a spouse?
See, I hear that question a lot. Somebody told you that you were supposed to depend on your spouse. I don't know where you got that from. I don't know who told you that. I don't know who told you that just because y'all have sex, you're supposed to depend on them. I don't know where you got that from. You have put flesh in human position. You don't depend on your spouse. You depend on God. And when my mother and father have forsaken me, do you read your Bible? It doesn't matter if your spouse rejected you. The truth is, you got with your spouse for completion instead of connection. You were already rejected. And when they did not fulfill the purpose that you manipulated them, because you didn't go in telling them you were insecure. You didn't go in telling them that you were rejected. You didn't go in telling them that you had mental problems. You didn't go in telling them, if you don't tell me you love me 5 times a day, I'm going to feel like you don't like me. You need to go in telling the truth. If you don't answer my text in 5 minutes, I'm going to think you're cheating on me. You had that problem before we met.
Well,
now, just tell me your thoughts.
What do you do,
Lisa?
let me get back to you. All right, go ahead.
So tell me what you think about that. Like,
Who? he spoke truth on that. He spoke truth on that. Now, of course, depending on someone, of course, that can be, it's not cut and dry. You know what I mean? But in the context that he put it, depending on, because it sounds like he's talking about, depending on someone to, like you said, complete you. You know what I mean? And when he says being rejected by a spouse, I'm only assuming he's talking about when you maybe break up, or when you're having issues in terms of connecting with each other, all those kinds of things. So, I mean, part of it is truthful when he's talking about you're expecting your spouse to kind of complete you. You know, that should never be the case, ever be the case, because it's never going to work. It's never going, that's too much pressure to put on another human being to complete another human being. It's just not. But you should be able to depend on your spouse to be supportive, to pour into you, to support you in terms of your goals, in terms of success in your life, those different kinds of things. So it can get a little muddled, but as he went into detail, I understood what he was saying. I completely agree. It's because people like to say, you go into a relationship and it's 50-50. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. Sometimes it's going to be 80-20. Sometimes it's going to be 90-10. It's going to be days when it's 99-1. Right. You know what I mean? It's not a 50-50 thing in terms of who's putting in what. And it's not a thing of, you come together, the two of you come together and then you're complete. I don't want a partial person. It shouldn't be two broke up partial people coming together to complete each other. That's a hot mess. Right. That's a hot mess. I'm going to need you to get your life together before you try to join with me. Right. Because what ends up happening is you have two broke people pretty much co-signing on each other's foolishness.
Well, but at the same time, though, I had some disagreement with him. And the reason is because I don't think the question was answered. The question was, what do you do if you're rejected by a spouse? And he went off on a whole tangent, Lisa.
I see what you're saying.
He went off and said, well, who told you to depend on your spouse? Well, what the hell kind of a question is that? Yeah. You're my wife, Lisa. I'm supposed to be able to depend on you. Right. If I'm your husband, I'm going to be weak days. You know what I'm saying? That I need you to be just as strong as you've ever been, because I'm down. You know what I'm saying? I depend on God. Yes, I depend on God. It's evident that I depend on God. Why? Because you're my wife. He gave you to me. Yeah. And he gave me to you.
Yeah. So yeah, what he was saying was muddled. I agree. That's why I was like, he's kind of all over the place and he went different directions with that. So I agree with what you're saying. I do agree with what you're saying. He didn't answer the question. He went to another place where it's like, that part makes sense. So you're right. He didn't answer the question. And yeah, like I said, you should be able to depend on your spouse to be supportive and all of those kind of things.
For that reason, I mean, what if the question was about rejection of sex? My wife is telling me she won't have sex with me. That's why I'm asking the question. I'm not trying to come out and say it in church. I'm not trying to type into the church web, Facebook feed. What if your wife won't have sex with you? What if your wife won't give you oral sex? What if your wife won't blah, 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 blah? You know what I'm saying? So maybe the question was disguised. But see, my whole point in showing you that was to speak to how we run into so many misconceptions generated by the church because of emotions and because of experience and because of brokenness. Preachers are preaching out of brokenness. Preachers are preaching out of a place where they probably should be resting. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that dude is a good preacher. Now, he's a pastor in Texas. His church is growing crazy. And he's not a bad preacher. But that moment just made me say, nah, bruh, this is, for me, I understand what you're saying. The words you're saying, when you put them together, are correct. Yeah. But for the context for which we are speaking, no, it didn't answer the question. No, it's just not. I'm sorry. It's not correct. It's not correct.
I guess, yeah, because honestly, the original question to me was kind of vague, because what do you mean by being rejected? You know,
And that's
it's vague.
where we should have went. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I'm excited to talk about Pastor Watson, because instead of saying all these things that are like, highly over spiritualized and saturated with religiosity and this philosophy sort of thing. He's the kind of preacher that preaches from facts, and that is what we need as the body of Christ, not to just boast about him all the time, right? But that's kind of what I'm looking for. That's kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I hate to say it, but sometimes, ministers need to dumb it down, if you will.
Yeah.
Not to, you know what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say people are dumb or whatever, but they can get so caught up in the theology of it, and what they learned and all of the vocabulary and theory. And it's like, I don't understand. I didn't go to Bible college.
Right.
Some people would say. So I'm gonna need you to dumb it down so that
Bring it down for me. Bring it down.
So I can apply it to my life.
But he's trying to do that with this statement, and people are jumping up and hollering and everything, but he said nothing that made any sense of the subject. And that's the thing that I'm talking about. It's like, people, you understand it for what you interpret it in your own fashion, and that's how you understand it. And that's where we get to the place in the church where we have subscribed to misunderstanding. We have subscribed to it willingly, because we are not willing to really step back and think, did this man actually answer the question, or did he just string together some words that just kind of sound like they should really make sense?
Yeah, he did jump over the question to a whole other issue. And the issue he was talking about, like I said, it made sense. And it's funny because I missed it until you pointed it out. I missed the fact that he jumped over the original question and started talking about something that was actually a relevant point, but it wasn't the point.
But it wasn't, right.
Yeah.
That's my point. That's what I'm saying is happening with the church. And that is why I believe that so often the church is standing in the way of the blessing of understanding and truly making it in life, and really making significant progress, and really going forward and doing all that you can do and being all that you can be.
I agree.